Thanks, sir. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. For those of you who are new to the DataDirect system or who may not have logged in a while, the easiest way to get there is right from our home web page, and just click on the login link here at the top right-hand corner and log in using your MyAACSB username and password. It'll bring you here to the AACSB member login portal. Here's where you can also access the Exchange to find the DataDirect users group that Elliot mentioned. And you can click on the DataDirect tile. It'll bring you right into your home page where you'll see your personal information right up there. Any currently active surveys that you have data entry access to will listed right here with their deadlines and current status, and a direct link that will take you right to the survey form. You can also access the survey forms for multiple surveys at the same time from the survey menu page. So let's jump right in. Now, the first thing you want to do, as with all of our surveys, is to check My Business Unit will complete this survey. And that will open all of the data entry sections so that you can actually save data in them. And then once you have completed the survey form, make sure you check My Business Unit has completed and I approve this survey, because that puts it into our queue for review. You can read the information and policy sections at your leisure. There are no major substantive changes to the survey form this year, but we will go ahead and go through and, as Elliot said, make sure that everybody's aware of all of the different nuances and the things that we look for as we're doing our review. So the first thing to do is start with basic questions. Basic questions just has two basic questions that we need the answers to before you go on. First is just the currency, and you are reporting all of the financial data points throughout the survey. If it's the same as last year, you can just click the copy icon and pull it directly across. Second is our gateway question, and this one is very important because the answer to this question determines the version of the governance section that you'll see later on in the survey form. The schools that are that indicate that their relationship is that of a standard academic unit, one among many at a parent institution, or a semi or mostly autonomous unit that still derives degree and authority from a larger parent university or other institution, will see one version of the governance section. Those that indicate that they are themselves a standalone independent institution will see a different version that has all of the questions and tables pertaining to the business unit parent relationship. I should also note that both of these questions are among the several questions and tables throughout the survey where the data points are linked with the corresponding ones in the main BSQ. So if you have completed them here, they will also be completed there, and vice versa. You have to do them both separately. The budgets and funds section is region specific. If you see a region tag that does not apply to your particular institution, please let us know right away at datadirect@aacsb.edu so that we can make sure that gets fixed for you. The instructions and definitions has just that, basic instructions for all of the TLC, as well as point-by-point definitions of all the terms. I'll let you read that on your own. We also have it in text within the individual tables in the data entry section. So the first question here is to have you identify your most recently completed fiscal year at the time that the survey opened. Since the survey opened this month, just a couple weeks ago, then any fiscal year should not still be in process later than February 2019 for the purposes of this survey. The operating budget figure is just your total business unit's operating budget for the entire fiscal year listed in question 1. And that includes, all faculty and staff salaries, all benefits, any non-personnel budgets that are whose expenditures are controlled by the business unit, with the exception of scholarship payments and such. If you are, or if your business unit rather is a unit that contains non-business education related programs, curricula, faculty, and whatnot, you can indicate that here. And if you say yes, then this field will open up, and you can indicate to us the percentage of your operating budget figure that is related to business education. And we do this in order to enable our schools to more accurately hone in on their peers in terms of operating budget ranges. The tuition and required fees table, where we collect tuition amounts, out-of-pocket amounts for your students for undergraduate, full-time, part-time MBA programs. At the undergraduate level, if you have undergraduate programs, you just indicate yes, and you can fill in the fields here. The fields in that, or at least any that apply, that is to say, the figures entered in this row should reflect a single year of undergraduate study, the out-of-pocket cost for your students. In the case of the full and part-time MBA programs, the figures here should indicate the total program cost start to finish, as it applies to the listed fiscal year. And all of these fields in questions 1, 2, and 3 are also a part of the finances section in the main BSQ. So if they're completed one place, they're also completed the other. The uses of operating funds table is unique to the BSQ finances module. And in this table, what we're looking for is the total expenditures for each of the different activities and operations. As mentioned, we got definitions of each listed in the help text and also in the instructions and definitions section. If you are not able to break out the categories by salary versus non-salary expenditures, you may enter figures into just the total column. Just be advised that if you do so, you'll need to do so for all the categories. It's not the auto-adding function in the table will not function correctly if you've got salary versus non-salary broken out for some categories and not others. Likewise, if you're not able to break it out by the various categories, you can also enter just the total row amounts. Sources of operating funds function similarly. In this, we're looking for all funds that your business unit receives and has available to it to put towards operations. From all of these various different sources. You can see here that some of them add up from rows above. You do have the option, if you're not able to say break out general tuition and fees revenue and government appropriations and all that individually, you can enter directly onto this total row. Likewise for government grants and contracts, private contracts, etc. I want to draw special attention to the rows for gifts and grants for capital purposes and current operations. Any non-zero amounts entered on these rows will activate the corresponding columns here in Table 6 for fundraising. And what we're looking for here in Table 6 is a percentage breakdown of the corresponding amount by donor type. So in this instance, we got $750,000 donated for capital purposes, and all of it came from alumni individuals. Whereas this 82,000 for current operations restricted came 70% from individuals and 30% from private charitable organizations, and so on and so forth. Once again here, if you're not able to break out individuals by alumni versus non, you can enter just a total amount here, and that's fine. Endowment market value, another field that is linked to the main BSQ. And here we're just looking for the total market value of your business unit's endowment. If your school doesn't have an endowment, or if the parent university to which your school belongs doesn't separate endowments out by academic units, you can just enter a 0 here to reflect that. Now, the governance section is one that will not appear until you have answered the appropriate basic question so that the system knows which version to show you. If you're a type A or B school, you'll see this. If you're type C school, then you'll see governance C right here. And then, of course, for type C schools, you will not see this table, business school autonomy, because it doesn't pertain to you. But for type A and B schools, what we're looking for here is the relative level of autonomy that the business school has in terms of determining the various different government aspects that are listed here. So whether it be something that is done by the parent institution for the business school, something that's done jointly between the two, or something that's more or less totally under the control of the business school. If none of these categories applies to the specific aspect of governance, you can select other and give us a description in this box of how it works. The second table is stakeholder involvement and influence. Here we're looking to have you rate the level of involvement in and influence over the determination of budgeting decisions and decisions on resource allocation by the various different listed stakeholders. Type C schools won't see the top 3 here. The rest everybody sees. If one or more of these stakeholders is not present at your school, then you just leave that blank to reflect that. Otherwise, each stakeholder should have a rating in both columns. The table here is just another similar scale, rating the level of influence that the business school has on the overall budget of the parent university, if you're a type A or B school. And if you have indicated that your school has an advisory council or a board of some kind by giving it a rating here, then the table 2N right here gives you the opportunity to indicate what types of issues were brought to that advisory council by your business unit, or vice versa, during the 2018-19 academic year. If one or more issues was brought in either direction that's not on the standard list, you can just say yes to other and give us a description in the boxes that are provided there. For resource allocation models, what we're interested in finding out is what model is used by your school to make resource allocation decisions, whether it be central administration management, whether it be responsibility-centered management, or some other model that you can describe in this text box here. Type A and B schools will have both within business school and internal departments and between the business school and its parent, and type C schools will see only this column here. Generally, as we're doing our review, we would expect to see at least one yes in this column, unless you indicate that your business school has no internal departments, which is rare but possible. And then, yeah, anytime you have an other model, just drop us a description in the text box there. Likewise, if there is an alternate model not currently in use that you think would work better for your school, we're interested in knowing about that as well in this box. Table 4 is another one that's seen only by type A and B schools. This one is just asking whether or not the listed factors matter in terms of determining how funds flow either from the business school to its parent or from the parent to the business school. And if you have one or more that are not on the standard list, just say yes and give us a description right here. Tuition collection models, again, apply only to the type A and B schools. And here, what we're looking for is for each degree level that your school has indicated it offers on the main BSQ, and it's shown right there, is whether at that level the business school collects tuition directly and then pays a tax or a percentage back to the central administration, or if the central administration does the collecting and then allocates the funds to the business school, or if your school is in an area where perhaps the state subsidizes tuition or tuition simply isn't charged, then type C is the appropriate answer for that level. And if none of these apply, if you have a completely different model, then you can select yes for type D and give us a description in the box here. We also ask that you give us a description in this box if you've indicated that more than one model applies at a given level, so that we understand exactly how that works at your school. The only time that you should enter NAs at any of the levels is if you've indicated that your school does not offer that level. Differential tuition, once again, applies only to type A and B schools. Here, we're looking for just whether or not your business unit charges a differential tuition rate, either across the board for all programs, as opposed to the standard rate for the parent, or for a specific educational level, or for a specific program or type of program within a given level. If you say yes to an across the board rate, then this box will open up here and you can indicate what the difference is. If it's more or if it's less, you can indicate a negative percentage. If you have a specific program level or program type, and you say yes, then you can give us a description here in the text box of what that level or type is and how it differs from the standard rate. Next table, organizational questions, is one that's seen by all schools. Though, of course, type C schools don't see the university parent institution or jointly options. And what we're looking for here is just an indication of whether each of the functions or operations is controlled by the business school, by the parent, jointly between the two, or by an independent third party of some kind. If the function or operation is not present at your school at all, then that is when you want to use the NA option. If any of them have been indicated as an independent third party, then you have a text box here. You can give us a description of who that third party is and how their management works. The financial reporting software table is shown for all schools. And here, what we're interested in is what category of software best describes the one that is used by your school, if any. If your school does not use any product, and just say yes here and no to all the other four. Certainly some schools do use multiple products, and if so, you just say yes to whichever ones apply. Resources tracking is just looking for indication of who is tracking sources and uses of business school resources. Type C schools won't see this top row, obviously, but everyone sees the bottom three. It's just yes or no. Do these individuals keep, or are they responsible for keeping track of the business school resources under their control? The last table is one that applies only to type A and B schools, and what this table is designed to get at is the net flow of funds between the business school and its parent. And it's a little bit complicated, so I'm going to go through this one slowly, step by step. Now, there are some automatic formulas that exist within this table. So it's important to enter the data in this table in order. So everything starts from row A, the total revenue generated by the business school. Now, this is not necessarily the same thing as your total sources of operating funds from the previous section, but it definitely shouldn't be less than that amount. But any revenue generated by business school services programs or other activities gets included in this figure here. Row B does get piped in directly from the uses of operating funds table. So this will be the total expenditures from the uses of operating funds table in the budgets and funds section. Rows C1 and C2 are additional funds that are added to the direct control of the business unit. They're considered to belong to the business unit, whether or not they are not generally considered part of the expenditures, but they're under your control, and also unused funds that are from, perhaps from previous years that are retained by the business unit. Row D adds up rows B, C1, and C2 to indicate the total amount that is spent or otherwise controlled by the business unit. And then row E, which is the final net flow figure, gets calculated based on the difference between this figure and row A. A positive net flow amount indicates an amount that the business unit has generated for the parent university. So it's the business unit generating funds that go to the parent. A negative amount here indicates the reverse, that the parent university or other institution is paying to support the business unit, and net flow of zero is just a break even back and funds back and forth. The last portions of this table, we're just looking to see who's in control of the collection and decision making for the revenue that is generated by the business school, whether it be the business school, the parent, or a hybrid approach. And then if you have any additional comments, descriptions, or context for us, you can enter that in this text box here because we love context. Now, the last section of the survey is the compensation practices section. Now, if your school is one that completed the staff compensation and demographics survey in last September, October, November timeframe, then this section may already be done for you. If there are updates that need to be made to the data here from that point, you can go ahead and make them now, and it will backfill the compensation demographics survey. So I'm going to just go through these for the benefit of those who are not at a school that has completed that survey. The first table is where we're looking for the average annual teaching loads of your full-time faculty. And we get a lot of questions about this particular table, so I'm going to try and break it down very simply as much as possible. These two read-only figures right here are automatically piped in from the data that are entered in the main BSQ section E1, which is the section on faculty and staff. If your school has indicated that it has an AAUP style system of tenure, then this figure right here represents the total tenured plus tenure track full-time faculty at your school. And this figure should be the maximum number of faculty included in the head counts for Table 1. If your school has not indicated that you have that style of tenure system, then this figure will be blank, and this figure, the total permanent contract full-time faculty, will be the maximum number that should be included in the head counts for Table 1. The program tracking method here is also linked to the same question in section A1 of the main BSQ. So if it's done there, it'll be already done for you here. And here it's just a gateway to ensure that only the columns that apply to your school are available for data entry. Now, to determine which rows you report your data on, it depends on whether your school makes a distinction between undergraduate and graduate credits or credit hours, as the case may be, in terms of assigning teaching loads. If there is a distinction in terms of how many are assigned to faculty, then you would report them separately: undergraduate teaching loads and the faculty who teach them here on rows C and D, graduate teaching loads and the faculty who teach them on rows E and F. If your school does not make a distinction between them, then you would report the faculty and the average teaching loads here on rows A and B. If your school is one that has only undergraduate programs, then you would use only C and D. And likewise, if you have only graduate programs, then you would use only E and F. So what we have here is broken out by their contract length, the number of full-time faculty, tenured and tenure track if you have them, that are in the head count that is used to calculate the teaching loads, and then the actual average number of credits or credit hours taught by those faculty over the course of the 2018-19 academic year. Bear in mind, this should be a per person average. We're not looking for the average number taught by by all of these faculty as a whole. So what this example data show are that these 22 full-time tenured and tenure track faculty who have 9 to 10 month contracts on average, they each taught 9 credit hours over the course of the year. Table 2 looks at compensation practices for newly hired full-time faculty. So for any of the listed practices that are available to new hires at your school, you just say yes, it's available, and then the data boxes will open up and you can indicate how many new hires received this benefit during the 2018-19 academic year. And if it's a monetary benefit, what was the average annual amount received by these individuals. Once again, this should be a per person average. So say these 2 newly hired faculty that received guaranteed research funds for 3 years, on average, they received $10,000 each. One thing I want to be sure to point out, because this is something that we catch a lot. Each of the rows where it has a similar benefit for multiple years should pertain to a distinct set of new hires. So for example, if I have 2 new hires that got guaranteed research funds for 3 years, I would enter them only on row E. It's not necessary to also enter them on rows D and C. Now, if I have 2 others that got it for just 1 year, then sure, enter it like that. But otherwise, yeah, only the highest applicable row needs to be filled out. And then likewise, if you have a benefit that's offered that's not on our standard list, just say yes to one of the others, and you can indicate what it is and how many received it. Table 3, just indication yes or no. Does your business unit compensate full-time faculty for work outside of their standard contract length? This does not include administrative duties or service or anything like that, just faculty work outside of their normal contract length. Table 4 works exactly the same as Table 2, only in this case it pertains to all of your full-time faculty. And so for each of the listed benefits, if you have them, say yes. Tell us how many of your full-time faculty received them for the 18-19 academic year and the per person average amount received. And that brings us to the end of the BSQ Finances module. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the floor open for your questions, and we'll make sure that we address all of them today.